now, however many years later, you're still having fun doing it?
Uh, on that, I have this saying: projects are fun, people suck.
You're listening to the AVIT Amplifier. Each week, we'll feature voices and ideas that need to be amplified in the higher education and pro AV IT communities. This show is brought to you by higheredav.com. And now here's your host, Ryan Gray.
Well, hello, everybody, and thank you for tuning in again to the AVIT Amplifier. As always, if it is Wednesday, you know your podcast feed is refreshed. You know that higheredav.com has been updated, and you know that YouTube has been updated with a new episode of the show without fail. And as always, my name is Ryan Gray, and I am your host, and today is a very exciting day because we have undoubtedly one of the absolute all-stars of the field to talk to today, and somebody who brightens my day anytime that I get to see or hang out with this person. So not to build him up too much, but Frank, thank you so much for taking time to be on the show. Would you please introduce yourself to the audience? Who are you and what do you do?
Hello, everyone. I am Frank Alaimo, and I am the manager of Classroom Technology Services at the University of Nevada, Las Vegas.
All right. Well, Frank, thank you for being here. So there are a lot of things to talk to you about because I think there's a lot of cool stuff that you do, and there's a lot of you're kind of one of those people that I'm going to throw a little judgment at you right at the beginning. Let me see if I can get you riled up a little bit. But that I think you're a pretty deep thinker on a lot of stuff and a pretty strategic person. But you talk and come across a little like, I'm going to do my Frank impression. Like I say what I say, and I do what I do. And if you don't like it, then whatever. But so let me start with this question, which is, why in God's name have you chosen to spend your professional career doing higher education audiovisual work?
I mean, to be honest, I fell into it. I started when I was 20 years old. I was crashing on my buddy's basement couch, and his father was the director of MIS services at a small Catholic school in Scranton, PA. And he's like, you know what? I'm sick of seeing you. I'm getting you a job. So he got me an interview. He's like, you were a DJ. You know what technology is. You could be a DJ. You could do this. So sure enough, I go and have the interview, bullshit my way through it, and I get the job. I was there for 12 years. You don't get a job like that and stay for 12 years unless you like what you're doing. And I was 20 years old when I started. So I was right around the same age of all the kids that are surrounding me in class, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I really fit into that mold. Like, I got to hang out with them. I was taking classes at the same time to get my degree. A little slower because I had work pace to go with, so I couldn't take a full boat of classes. So I was working at a university with students my own age. I wasn't a student worker. I was a full-time employee.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that was the coolest part, was the fact that I was working with my peers, right? And then I'm taking classes with them. I was a broadcast major, so I'm doing radio TV stuff. And you really get to hang out, and you really get to bounce ideas off these guys and gals. And it was just fun. And then, 12 years go by, meet my wife while I was there, same place. Some leadership changes come, and I stepped away, and I went to the casino world, and I worked at Mohegan Sun, which is the casino that opened in Pennsylvania. So I was there for about 4 years. And while I was there, my wife and I went and we've actually vacationed out in Vegas. And she's like, we came back, and she's like, why don't you just go look at Vegas again? Let's see if we can find something out there. And a job popped up here at UNLV. I applied for it, didn't get the first one. Applied for the one I'm in currently, and got that in 2012, and never looked back. And the main reason why I jumped back to higher ed, because it's where it started, and I enjoyed it. And then, here I am I guess you could say toward the middle or end of my career, I guess you could say. It's just something that it draws you in. You're surrounded by the young life, right?
Yeah.
They keep you young. They really do. I mean, my team drives me nuts. But my student workers are great. Like the student workers, just seeing them change over every 4 years, like we get new ones fresh through.
Yeah.
So I think ultimately the reason why I'm here, like I said, it keeps you young, it keeps you fresh, but the tech keeps changing and the classroom demands keep changing and research is changing and somebody throws a bucket of money your way and you get to do a cool project and then, you just it sucks you in and it gets in your veins and you just stay. And I'd say the other part is not just the university, it's hanging out with folks like you and everybody else that's in higher ed that I've met over the years, because that is the cool part. Like we're not competitors.
Yeah.
So you look at the Googles and the Zappos and all those big companies like that, and they don't share resources. They don't talk to each other. It's not like that. We're all family in higher ed. So I think that's the other part that's really cool about it.
Yeah, that's also, it's not like you said, you fell into it. Almost everybody's got some place where it's like, I tripped over something, I fell through a door, that was the AV office, and I've been in it ever since.
There's no degrees
But, yeah, exactly.
in this field right now, which is something we're all here trying to do. We're trying to change, we're trying to add to that, but we need to fuel the youngsters, right?
Yeah.
So,
but it seems like your story of like, hey, I got into it and I had fun doing it, and that's what kept me in it. Like there's a part of that. Would you say now, however many years later, you're still having fun doing it?
I have this saying: projects are fun, people suck. Because
Yeah.
if my boss knocked on this door right now and he comes in and say, "Hey, I got $1 million, we're gonna go build this room," I'd be the first one to run out there and start bringing paper to pen and grab my tape measure and my laser and let's go do it. If he comes through his door and says, "We got a problem, we got to talk about so and so," I'm like,
Yeah.
it's the management part of it, and every manager I've ever spoke to says the same thing. Management is management, but projects are fun.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing that goes around all the time, right? Even I think James did an article with that title, right? Which is technology is easy, people are messy.
Yeah.
And we're in that. So let's dive into that a little. Why have, I mean, given that there's it always seems like in places, right? So like the best technical person becomes the supervisor and then becomes the manager and then becomes the whatever. And then you end up in a place where you're balancing people management with technology management and working through other people. So what has that path been for you? Why not just stay in a technical role?
Well, I mean, honestly, when I got here in 2012, they brought me on to help develop and build the team. My manager here at the time only had 2 people underneath him.
Yeah.
And so my job was to come in and be the AV designer, but my job was also to build the gap between our construction team on campus, our plant construction folks, our network folks, every other silo that was out on campus. My job was to build that bridge and to let them know, hey, we're here. This is what we do. We don't just do classrooms. I'll get your office done. We'll do your signage. We'll do this in the gymnasium, whatever, right? My job was to do that. So I came in, and a few years after, hitting the ground running and having some successful projects, I went back to him and I said, look, I'm burned. I'm like, I'm here a couple of years. I'm like, I'm already cooked. I said, there's got too much going on. I said, we need our own programmer. We need our own this. We need that. And slowly, I helped him develop the current team that I have now. Like Michael, our programmer, he was one of my student workers. We invented a position just to keep him.
Yeah.
Because he was a student worker who was programming at a level higher than most integrators even can fathom at that time. So I went and got a position created, and we created that, brought him on. And then I had another student worker, and we brought him on, and so on, and it grew. And it grew to the point where I had so much invested in it that I was not just a team player, I was the team quarterback, I guess you could say. I was out building the team with my boss. Well, COVID came, and he stepped away during COVID, and I became the interim manager because I was the senior person on the staff at the time, and I knew the ins and outs of everything, and all the folks around campus knew who I was, the position I was in. So when he stepped away, I became the interim. 2.5 years later go by until they finally made me the manager. During that time, I had a lot to think about. Like, do I want to do this? Do I want to do that? And I looked at it from a project perspective, because being a project architect, so to speak, right? You're the guy that you design it, You bring the integrators in to do the install. You work with the contractors to get the pipes and data in the wall. You get your programmer on board. Then you bring back and you train your end users when it's finished, you know. That whole thing, that whole process, I said, let me take that and see if I can put that into my team, build my team, design my team, right? I'm going to train my team. All the things that I did for a project, I want to do it for the team. So we slowly started adding positions, and we moving positions and people around to where they fit better. So yeah, I looked at it from a project perspective, but looking back at it, it is completely different. It's you can take some things and you can manage a project with people, but when you manage your people for projects, it's different.
Yeah.
And I'm learning that. And you know, James, for instance, you know, when he came to the med school, and he and I have our monthlies and we have our weeklies, and we talk it out. And I mean, we go back and forth at, you know, what's this guy doing wrong, and what's this one, who's driving us nuts today, right? And it's not just our teams; it could be within the organization itself, an integrator issue, you know, what have you, because we share all the same resources. You know, he's just 7 miles away on another part of campus. So ultimately, I mean, I think that's the way I looked at it, and I figured, you know what, all right, I'll give it a shot. And, you know, here we are.
Okay. Is it there? In my career, there's been places and times where where you're in a similar place where there's a feeling of like, okay, well, if I don't step up to the role, I'm going to be working for someone else who comes in.
Yes.
So you feel trapped, especially when you've built, like you talk about, like, look, I brought these people in, I brought them in, I brought them up. You know what I'm saying? Am I willing to turn that over to someone from the outside? Or did you feel like you had to step up because of that ownership of the other people?
Yeah, it was my baby, right? Like this is something I literally bled for. I don't know how many fingers I smashed in building racks and hanging screens and all that sort of stuff. And yeah, absolutely. Nobody was going to come in and take this away from me.
Right.
They gave me the opportunity. I could have absolutely told my boss, I'm going to stay, do my design stuff. You bring somebody in above me, that's fine. I don't have that mentality. I do things my way, and people like it or don't like it. I really don't care. It's gotten me this far. We have a successful team here. We have a successful ecosystem on this campus. We really, really have done well, and I think I will contribute a lot of that to just me being the hard head that says this is the way we need to do things. This is what works for us. So I wasn't going to bring someone in. I wasn't going to let someone come in over me. If they were going to make me apply for this position, you know, let's strap on the suit and we'll go to work.
Right.
I'll interview, and I'll go toe to toe with whoever wants to come in and try and take my job. If I don't get it, I don't get it. That's great. But they didn't, you know, thankfully my leadership saw that, you know, this is the person to lead the team at the moment. So they've given me a lot of leeway. I'm very thankful for that. They've my growing pains, I guess you can say, because let's be honest, it's very hard to be groomed as a leader, to walk into a leadership role like that when you were the guy taking the punches, taking the hits, doing all that sort of stuff, because it's a different mentality. You know, I mean, I have 40 different hats that I have to wear, because I know when I go into a room and I'm sitting across the table with that person, I can't talk to that person the way I talk to that person. Yeah. So I need to go in there and tailor my conversation and tailor my meeting to so many different people, because let's be honest, I'm not polished. The head's shiny, but I'm not
Well, okay. So one, I will kind of disagree with you on that, though. You know, there's like you literally, though, in that answer, almost said the exact thing I said when I was doing an impression of you at the opening of the thing, which is I do what I do, and if people don't like it, then they can just like. So you know, there's that. But I think you know what let me ask you this then, because you articulate a way, like you say, hard-headed. I know the way things should be done. You know, I bring people up and along. Well, let's be clear about something. If there's someone who has that type of leadership style, look, I know what we need to do. I know, you know, we're going to do it, yada, yada, yada. And there's people we all know like that nobody wants to work for. And you seem to have, you know what I'm saying, but you have people that you've kept on and you've brought up and you've developed and you've whatever. So like, what is it? To me, it sounds a little bit more like what you have is a well thought out vision and a plan. It's not a matter of just like, look, my way or the highway.
Yeah.
It's I've got a well thought out way of how we can be successful, how we've been successful, how we're being successful, and how we can continue to be successful. That like inspires people to want to put you in leadership roles, to follow you, to stick with you. Would you see it the same way?
You were just here like a month ago, right? And,
Yes,
and
I
you
was.
came here and I showed you in my office, even the stuff from your school that was on here, right? That I was taking your information to help build out my team. Because like I said, we have to share resources with other schools. What works for one school doesn't work for another school. So I got a stack of ideas here from other schools. And the problem with my ideas are they keep freaking changing. Like I can't stay locked into something because my guys will have a team meeting and we'll be like, hey, what if we had a guy that did this? Or what if we had something that does that? And then I go to my boss and my boss is like, hey, that's not a bad idea. I'm like, okay, well, let's really unpack this. So a lot of my decision making when it comes to building a team now is like a city council meeting with my guys. We sit around the table and I have to throw it out on the table because if they're not going to be happy with something of an idea that I'm bringing in, now you got mutiny, right? And I can't have mutiny because it gets infectious to others and we all know how that goes. So I have to get the buy-in from the team right off the bat. And as soon as I got one guy that and I do have one of these guys that will find the negative in everything.
Yeah.
9 out of 10 of them, he's wrong. Like he's just being a guy to poke my brains. But there's one time he'll say something, I'll be like, Jesus, he's got it. Like he figured it out. Like there's that one thing. So I think as long as you bring your team involved, you get your team to have buy-in with you. That's the best part. If it doesn't work, if you come in with a cockamamie idea and it doesn't work, you just look at, all right, well, I threw that to the wall and it didn't stick. So, I mean, they're not all winners, right?
Yeah, but I'd say like you just articulated a pretty good methodology for collaborative leadership. I wouldn't call what you just said hard-headed in any way.
Well,
You know
I
what
mean,
I'm saying?
I'm hard-headed. I mean, I do. There's the exterior that says, Frank says, this is what we're doing, this is what we're doing. And that's what people think. But I mean, ultimately, yeah, I mean, I know what I want. But if it's not for the good, if the greater good of my team says, no, I know you might want to do this, but I mean, they're not afraid to push back. And that's the good part. Whether it's coming through the closed door or with the group setting, we can have our talk and we'll figure it out. But there's nothing I'm trying to do, and there's nothing that's going to be detrimental to the team. It just might make people uncomfortable if someone's coming in with a different skill set that might be challenging to their skill set, or someone on the team might have to expand their skill set and learn some new things or whatever. So yeah, there's always those challenges, but look, we're all adults here and we all get paid a decent salary, a very good salary, I should say, for my team that we can figure anything out and everybody can be happy at the end of the day and go home, right?
Nice. Well, I certainly the reputation of you and your team in the industry is well known, and you guys have been out front on a lot of things from sort of Rebel Flex and especially in the world of capture. And then, I've had the privilege of being on your campus a couple of times and do appreciate, like you said, like sharing ideas and being out there. You can just ping and be like, hey, we're coming to town. Could we come hang out? You know what I'm saying? You've got us in golf carts and you're taking me and my team around. Like it's freaking awesome. So how do you, in terms of kind of you don't do things like Rebel Flex or some of the other things you've done by sitting back and waiting and watching. You're definitely looking to be on the forefront. You're looking to make improvements. Yeah. How do you sort of balance, creating change, you know what I'm saying, instigating change with maintaining stability, and also having the changes you're driving be, accepted and embraced by your whole institution, not just, by the people in AV who could do cool stuff, but it never gets used, all the way to, no, we are driving the future of what these spaces are like and how they're used.
I think it's a couple things. I think the first part is just our name, being rebels, right? We're rebels. And when COVID came and our then hybrid classrooms, whatever you wanted to call them, high flex, hybrid, everybody used the terminology incorrectly, right?
Yeah.
the room is flexible, the furniture is modular, the
Right.
modality has to change. Like these are different things. Anyway,
Mm-hmm.
we didn't know what the hell we were doing. We had a plan in place because if COVID didn't happen, right? We had lecture capture classrooms that were all over campus that we were going to start expanding on to do the Zoom uh,
Mm-hmm.
asynchronous solution, right? Well, COVID shows up. Well, I got a stack of papers in my team. I already had a project really sitting there on the edge. So our leadership waited a year, 6 to 8 months, I'd say they waited until let's see what happens. Let's see how we're going to spend the money. Then the COVID money came out, the CARES Act. Next thing you know, my provost knocks on the door and says, "Hey, we need 60 classrooms done in this solution of whatever it is you're
Mm-hmm.
going to do." And I was like, "Oh, this is real." Went back to my team literally in 48 hours. We whipped out the full design and had quotes in my integrator's hands in 3 days.
Mm-hmm.
And as we were doing it, I said to them, all my guys, we got one room we're going to test. We had enough gear to test one space. And the test was working, so we pulled the trigger and we did it.
Yeah.
You got to be a rebel to do something like that.
Mm-hmm.
You don't just waste, I don't say waste, but you don't just drop $2 million
Correct.
and tell your provost, this will be perfect. Look fine. I was scared to death. I didn't know what the hell was going to happen, right? And sure enough, okay, successful rollout, challenges along the way. We roll with the punches. We get our fixes. Let's circle back to this summer. This past summer, not the one we're in now, but last year, my guys came up with another idea, and this was on them. We had rooms that were outdated, and they weren't touched by the Rebel Flex. So we actually pulled back. We got rid of the touch panel. We went with a push button. We got rid of all the extra sources and inputs. We went with 4 sources. If it had a manual screen, we replaced it. If it had a motorized screen, we replaced it. We didn't change and add a motorized where a manual was or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't do any furniture changes because we didn't have the money for it, but we basically scaled back our technology in these smaller classrooms, and we didn't tell anybody. Didn't
Mm-hmm.
tell a soul. We had the money. We did it. Faculty comes in the fall. We didn't get one darn call. Where's my touch panel? Where's this? Where's that? Nothing. They came in and pushed the button. The room worked like it normally would work, right?
Mm-hmm.
Again, you got to be a rebel to do something like that.
Yeah.
You also got to be kind of stupid because sometimes it will bite you in the rear end. But for the most part, any of the changes we're going to make them for the ease of the university, for the use of the user. Nothing's going to be drastic to the point where it would scare them to walk into a classroom. Because ultimately, let's be honest, you've been on our classes, or in our classrooms, we spoil our faculty here.
Mm-hmm.
They have classroom lecterns that are decked out to do whatever they want to do. We don't believe in the BYOD solution. We have a PC in the room. We have a cable they can use. We have air medias they can use, but there's always going to be a computer in that room. There's always going to be a touch panel to turn the room on, right? So ultimately, success is the problem now.
Mm-hmm.
If you have the successful rollouts, well, now my provost doesn't care if he drops money. My CIO doesn't care because he knows it's going to work. He knows we have the proven track record. We're going to, crawl through some broken glass to get to that stained glass window at the end, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you have to have a team that's willing to try, and you have to have leadership that's willing to trust you.
Mm-hmm.
And I think for the years that we've had our group in-house growing and all the successful projects we've had, successful case studies and projects and buildings and all this stuff, you're a victim of your own success.
Yeah.
They basically will trust you at anything at this point. And then it gets to the point where they walk in the door and they say, "Hey, can we do this?" I'm like,
Yeah.
sure. Like we could do anything. How much money you got, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I
But
think that's about where I'm going with success is your own enemy.
yeah. But I mean, I think you're like, you mentioned before how like you've been given some freedom and stuff like that, but it sounds like autonomy in these kinds of roles is a transactional thing. It's earned and given, right? So you've earned that ability. You've gained their confidence to do things like that. But like you said, you got to be a rebel to just go change classrooms and not tell anybody. But on the next sentence is, you know what I'm saying? But you're doing it with the point of view of the user's ease, not your own ease.
Right.
So you build trust by doing that. You don't need to run it by them because you're already genuinely inhabiting their space. You know what I'm saying? So like,
Cool part about it is like we have our own help desk here, right? So when the faculty have a problem, they call us directly. If the faculty needs to get training, they call us directly. So we already have a pulse on what's going on in those classrooms, what's working and what's not working. If we do a program change, if Mike comes up with an idea and we do a program change, and next thing you know, we're getting an influx of calls. This button on the panel doesn't make sense. We're changing it. Like,
Yeah.
that's it. Tell us what you want.
Mm-hmm.
So we're not afraid to ask the faculty. We just don't give them too much information beforehand.
Right.
We have the faculty center / teaching and learning commons, they call it now. And we, in the past, we've run pilots and we've gone in there and we've showed them some things. And you know how faculty are. Sometimes it's difficult to even get them to come to campus to teach, let alone to come and to look at new technology, right?
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes for us, it's just better just to throw it out there
Mm-hmm.
and see what happens and let whoever complains, and we'll work with it then.
Yeah. But you, like you said, you're, for the most part, if people walk in and it works and what they expect to kind of happens,
Yeah.
then man, they're on to teaching and they're not thinking about that, and you're looking great. So
Yeah, we like it when they come here from another school and they'll
Yeah.
be like, at so-and-so, we did this. And I'm
Mhm.
like, okay, so how did it work? It sucked.
yeah,
Yours is
Right.
better. Okay, great. Or they give us the vice versa. My other school, I did this and it was much easier to use. Well, tell us how.
yeah, exactly.
How could we help you change that? And, so you have to be open to listen to them.
Mhm.
And look, at most of the time, it's going to be lip service and you're not going to make a global change across the campus. But there's that one time they come up with a great idea and you bring it back to the team and the guys go, wow, we can easily do that by change 2 cables in one pathway. And, oh, okay.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Nice. Well, you mentioned earlier, you vacillated a little, like now that I'm sort of in the middle towards the end of my career, and you kind of said both, and it was kind of interesting to see. So looking forward from here, you got into AV having fun, you're back here, you're in Las Vegas, you're doing this, you're in this management role. What now, as you look between now and retirement, what does that look like, do you think, for Frank Alaimo?
You're putting me on the spot here. I'd like to say that I'm gonna put my 30 years in here and be the old man at the table and they give me a rocking chair on my way out and have my retirement here. But options are always out there.
Mm-hmm.
I will say this. I say that I'll never work for another university. This was
Interesting.
This is the greatest experience of working for a university and having the freedom that I've had here. That if I went to another school where I hear the challenges that others have at those schools, we all have our challenges, but this is the devil you know, right? This is the closest you are to the devil you know.
Right.
And,
When your chaos and your place's chaos are the same kind of chaos.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
don't have my keys here, but my wife has a keychain on my key. It says "My circus, my monkeys," right?
Yeah.
So I don't want to go to somebody else's circus. So if I ever leave the university, I'll probably leave to go do something else in AV. It won't be it won't be for another school. It may be in higher ed. It might be higher ed adjacent.
Right.
But right now I'm totally happy where I'm at. Very comfortable here. I like the fact that my administration is willing to take chances when it comes to new technology and stuff like that. But yeah, who knows? Maybe in a few years, my wife and I decide we want to move someplace. I can't say warmer because there's nothing warmer.
Yeah,
But,
exactly.
maybe we'll want to taste some other seasons, and maybe we'll go somewhere. And who knows? Maybe I'll go out on my own and do something, or I'll be a gun for hire. Who knows? But
There you go.
for
Well,
right now, I'm quite happy here.
Yeah. And when you've built a team and all that, like you, it sounds like you're at that place. Like even if that day comes, you're also not leaving your school in a bad place because you've assembled the capability to ensure that success isn't just dependent upon you, but you've built the team to make sure that success belongs to the institution and the department.
Yeah, I tell my guys, I said, don't just be honest. Like, here's what I say: don't do dumb shit.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
just don't do it. Like, think about everything you're gonna do, right? If you have a situation pop up, grab one of your teammates, say, hey, what do you think we should do here? They actually had a sign on the door. It was hanging in the office for a while. It said, what would Frank do, right?
Yeah.
And it was just like, it's just, you have to trust yourself, and you have to trust that everyone that around me is a professional on this campus that knows this campus inside out and does the right thing for this campus. So ultimately, if I stepped away, any one of my team members can slide into this slot and have the same pains that I'm having
Yep.
with them. But we've built a good flow, a good leadership stepping stone, I guess you could say, to the folks around me that trust me to run the team. They would have to earn the same trust. So
That's awesome. Well, dude, thank you so much for sharing. I love being able to take a little dive through Frank's brain and the stuff that you're working on like this. It's really fun for me to be able to do. If folks are out there were like, I'd like to follow along and see what Frank is up to or make contact with you at some point, how would they go about doing that?
I'm pretty easy to find. You could just Google my name and you'll find a bunch of stuff about me, but I am on LinkedIn. So LinkedIn is my only social I deal with. I don't do the Twitter. I don't do whatever the heck the other ones are. LinkedIn's my only thing. So if you need me, it's my LinkedIn profile is just my name, and you'll be able to find me there.
Cool. I'll put that in the show notes and advise everybody. Yeah, if you're not connected up with Frank, connect, because you'll see cool stuff along the way, and that we get to follow along with what you're doing in the future, so that the rest of us can look smart to our institutions by copying you. You know what I'm saying?
Well, I since was it imitation is a sincere form of flattery, right?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Cool. Well, Frank, thank you so much for taking the time to talk with everyone today.
Yeah, thank you for having me, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you for listening to the AV-IT Amplifier. Tune in next week for more with today's guest. It'll be great, or your money back. Your host has been Ryan Gray. He's on the tweeters at Ryan_A_Gray, or find him on LinkedIn to connect. Please subscribe and give the show a rating and review wherever you get your podcasts. This show is brought to you by higheredav.com. The views expressed here are not necessarily those of our respective institutions, employers, or sponsors. Everyone hang in there, go easy, and we'll be back next week.